Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario. I know for the content, the title, and everything of this video, I am smiling on here because, I'll probably be making some jokes and all that. And usually I like to deal with things, sometimes at coping with, like, laughing or humor or whatever it is there. But no, when it comes to this, I figured. Originally, I was thinking of just saving this to the end of the month for Mario's Minute episode, but this is actually stuff I've talked about quite a lot on there, to the point where I kind of joke that, like, that podcast is kind of just the you will own nothing and like it podcast. But this is going to be more of a podcast type video. What I mean by that is I am going to be interspersing some things on the actual video content itself here. But if you're not paying 100% attention to the actual visual, that's completely fine. You can pull this video up on the side. You can, I don't know, like, listen to it, or play games or whatever you're going to do while this is playing. Do what you want to on there. You don't have to just stay focused on the visual component. So kind of just giving a little bit of a heads up there. Additionally, for reference here, I am recording this the day this news ended up dropping on July 1st. So you all are going to see the video a few days after. But with that, I don't know. I've just kind of been, it's a new month. We finished half of the year, which is kind of scary thinking about that timeline and all that. But I don't know if there's just been more things that have been annoying me today, this month, whatever it is, but it certainly doesn't really help when it's like I woke up, and shortly after waking up, I saw this news here, which was saying that essentially PlayStation and Sony are going to be exiting the physical game disc market by January 2028. So really, we can just say here, starting in 2028, there's not going to be any more production of PlayStation discs. So no more PS4 discs, no more PS5 discs, no more PlayStation discs are going to be manufactured. So what I'm saying is this year, the rest of this year and next year are going to be the remaining amount of time that any brand new PlayStation game that can get pressed to a disc can still get pressed to a disc. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about my thoughts on it. And there's going to be a lot here. And I'm going to say, if my eyes are kind of like drifting off the screen here, I end up writing a lot of notes about this because I had a lot of thoughts and I want to talk about this. And I even have like some props and all that here. So I'll be sharing a few examples and all that, I guess, as we go along. We can just go ahead and get into it. But first, this really starts off with something that I've been kind of harping on for a bit here, which is, again, you will own nothing and like it. That is definitely the all digital future that everything is starting to torpedo to. Not starting to, it's been like that for a while. And I'm one of those people personally. It's not just like the modding thing and all that. I end up enjoying collecting. I like my physical games. Like, this is the most, actually, I'll show you the two most recent physical games I picked up were these two right here. I end up getting Star Fox, which is great so far, and Sonic Cross Worlds. Those are like the most recent pickups I got. I got like little stacks of games here that I've picked up as well too. But it hasn't really been good news in this front, really, like the last week or so. Within the last week, over 500 movies and films, they're the same thing, right? Over 500 films were announced to be deleted from PlayStation accounts. And these are films that people have purchased. They didn't rent them, they purchased them. They didn't use a subscription service. This is actually on like the actual PlayStation storefront where you could purchase these films. They've just been removed. And I'm not talking about being delisted. I'm talking about they've been removed from people's libraries. I'm talking about, it doesn't matter if you have the licenses for this content on your system and you have your account on there and your account is set up as primary and you have the content down. None of that matters is what I'm saying. None of that matters with this. I'm really trying to stress to you all, this is like this example here. Somebody ended up paying for a film so they could own it, so they could add it to their account, and that film was being completely removed from the account. That means they have paid money for that and they can no longer watch that film anymore. They don't have the license for it. They don't have the ability to play it back anymore. And that is not a rental. That is something that was purchased, as in ownership. We're going to see a lot more of that. And this is stuff that and many other people have been warning about, and that is why I do care about preservation. I care about, taking your games, backing up the content so you can actually do what you want to with them. So you can actually have some ownership there. And it seems like I guess memory is fickle and convenience is king, because it seems like people always seem to forget about this because we're so long past using the Wii closer, like the Wii store being closed, as an example. We're long past the original Xbox store being closed, as another example. Any games, still to this day, any games that you purchased on the original Xbox Live storefront on the original Xbox, as soon as that thing went offline, all those purchases were gone. They did not transfer over to Xbox 360. Even if a game came out on the original arcade and re-released on 360, you had to buy that game again. So that's where that's at there. And that wasn't it, by the way. Still in the past week, we also got news, which I'm sure you all have heard of Grand Theft Auto 6 physically only being a code in a box. So that means when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, you can drive down to your local store, get excited, purchase a physical copy of the game, but when you open that thing up, there's not going to be any disc in there. There's just going to be a download code, which you have to add to your account. You redeem it on there, and then you have to download the full game, but you won't have a disc to install. You don't even have a disc to use as a license key on there. So we've gotten that news. We got the Grand Theft Auto 6 pre-orders that went up. We had all the movies removed, and now on July 1st, we end up getting news that, yeah, like I said, disc production is going to be ending for PlayStation games. By the way, this also includes first-party and third-party games. So that means any official stuff like a God of War offering, for example, if that ends up releasing in, let's say, 2028, it's not going to be able to get pressed to a disc. If we're talking about third-party games, like, actually, here's one. Expedition 33, absolutely love this game, so of course I'm going to plug it here. If we're talking about something like this, it can't get pressed to a disc either. Finally, that also completely omits any kind of third-party publishers as well, too, or any of the ones who do limited runs, including limited run games. So I will be talking about that maybe a little bit later on, but it's like, with those companies that really specialize in making like special editions of games or bringing digital games to physical, I don't know how they're going to exist after this. I really don't. Oh yeah, and I do want to say this news real quick here, just kind of get out of the way because I know people are going to mention it. It was also kind of mentioned as a footnote and as a additional separate announcement as well too, that the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation Vita digital storefronts are also going to be shutting down. Now, to this real quick, I'll say this doesn't really surprise me. It's kind of expected. I actually talked about this as well, too, a few years ago on my podcast, Mario's Minute, and I talked about it on there, and I was really happy that the internet got upset and they end up pushing back. And at the time, I said something along the lines of, because they were going to take down those two as well as the PSP storefront, and they didn't really give people very much time to do that. So because there was such an uproar, Sony ended up reversing course on that. And they essentially said, hey, look, we're not going to keep we're going to keep the PS3 and the Vita storefronts up for now. The PSP storefront, we're going to shut that down. And the last thing is you can't use credit cards on these storefronts because they're really old systems, really old storefronts, and just because of standards and practices and legalities and even security that we have to keep up with now, we cannot securely process credit cards on those old platforms. So if you want to make any purchases, you have to do something like get a PlayStation Network card, add funds to your account, and then use those funds in order to purchase games on those old systems, which I was kind of like, okay, that makes sense. From a security standpoint, totally makes sense. I get that. But as for the PS3 and Vita storefronts not being shut down at that time, I even said back then, that was just a temporary thing. It's going to be for now. And I don't know when Sony is actually going to shut them down. And now we actually have a date for that. It's going to be depending on different territories, but worldwide, those storefronts are going to be shut down in July of 2027. So that means right now, if you're hearing this, you have a year. You have a full year to get your purchases in on the PS3 and the Vita. And you might want to look there as well, too, because there's some good deals that you can get there on old PS1 and PS2 games that even carry over all the way up to the PS5. So when those end up going down, it's going to be really disappointing to see like where people can actually purchase some of those games that are especially inflated in the third-party market, because you can get games there like hard to find expensive games like the Parasite Eve games. You can get them on the PS3 right now for under $10 a piece. Go ahead and look up the price of those games. They're pricey. Either way, my opinion on that is I don't really find it offensive that those two storefronts are being shut down. Afterwards, I'm sure there's still going to be the functionality where if you have an account and you have that on your system and your system's online and you have the licenses on that account for that content, you can always re-download it. Yeah, that is a thing that they do say there. Does it work in all actuality? That's a whole other question, and I'll probably get to that later as well too. But what I'm saying here is that these systems, we knew a few years ago Sony was trying to shut down the storefronts. They're doing so now. And look, even if you're upset by it, you got to realize the PS3 came out in 2006. The Vita, I believe, came out in 2012. So by the time these storefronts shut down, they will have been running for about 15 to 20 years on the systems, depending on which one you're really talking about there. So for a storefront to continue on for that long digitally on a console like that, that's pretty impressive unto itself. And I'm like, you know what? If it was like 5 years, I'd be upset. But the fact that they're running for 15 or 20 years, I'm not upset about that. And look, even on the PC side of things, PC, it's an open platform. You can pick whatever you want to on there. You can do all that stuff. We all love Steam. We talk about Steam. We hail Steam as a champion. Like, Valve has done good stuff with Steam, but even Steam has had its own platform changes as well too. I believe this was in the last few years. I actually had to look this up again, but Steam has changed platforms. Steam no longer officially, at least, no longer officially supports 32-bit operating systems. So if you want to download Steam and install it right now, you need to be on a 64-bit operating system. On top of that, if you're using Windows, you have to be on, at minimum, Windows 10. Windows 7, Windows 8, and anything prior, that support has been deprecated. So even though you have the same platform, you still have those changes and you still have things that are taken away. Either way, that's really all I have to say about the digital storefronts there. I figured some people might ask about that. That's my thoughts. Let's continue on to the topic here. Now, talking about this here, this kind of goes back a little bit here to Grand Theft Auto 6 being announced as a physical release code in a box. I guess that's what it is there. And there were some people I was seeing who were upset that they were kind of pointing at that as evidence and saying, look, Rockstar and Sony ended up working together on this here, and they saw the successful pre-orders, and that was enough for them to prove that they don't need to support discs anymore. No. No, that they're not going to make such a big decision like that within a week's time. No, this has been cooking for a long while. A decision this big is not going to be instantaneously made like that. I just have to say that here. My opinion, I honestly believe this is probably just Rockstar Games, and I guess Take-Two here, just falling in line with the new norm. And I have zero doubts that Rockstar already probably knew from Sony about the production of discs ceasing in advance. First of all, just from the public stuff, we have enough evidence that the industry has been trying to make this shift for many years at this point. First, you gotta realize this generation, the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5, they are nearly 6-year-old systems. I know that hurts to think about. I know it doesn't feel like it. They came out late 2020. They are nearly 6-year-old systems. And with that, we have had multiple examples right there of this industry push to make everything go all digital. The Xbox Series S, the discless Xbox Series X, the discless PS5, which, by the way, I have said this multiple times, I firmly believe that Sony wanted the PS5 to be digital only, and in the last minute, they ended up slapping a disc drive in there. Quite literally. That's what I believe, because if you want proof of that, I guess, look at the two systems. The discless version of the PS5 looks great. Aesthetics, everything, it looks wonderful. The disc drive version of the system looks like they literally just slapped a disc drive on the side. Either way, going back to it, like I said, the discless PS5 is a good example of that. The PS5 Slim and the PS5 Pro are optional with disc drives. Even if you buy one with a disc drive built in, you can still remove that thing. And if you buy one without a disc drive, you can purchase one separately, you can pop it in. We've also seen Blu-ray disc and even drive production slowing down or even ending. So that's actually one thing that many people have been talking about for the past maybe year or so. This here is a external Blu-ray writer, and people have been saying like, hey, if you've ever wanted one of these, you should probably get one sooner rather than later. Like, as in, get one now. Because they're going up in price and they're getting harder to find. Because to my understanding, production of these has either majorly slowed down or has kind of ceased. That's been my understanding, at least. I got a few on hand, so I should hopefully be okay, but I am going to be taking care of them. Finally, of course, the big thing that we can point to is quite simply digital sales are higher than physical sales. Money talks. It's that simple. And even getting back to this, for people who might be asking why release Grand Theft Auto 6 physically at all, if it's just going to be a box with a digital code in it. Well, I'm actually going to surprise some people here. This is not the first time Rockstar has done it. Oh no, they did it with the Xbox 360. I actually pulled this off my shelf here, but check this out. This is something in my collection. I end up purchasing it here. And for anybody who might be wondering, wait a minute, The Lost and Damned, they never released a physical copy of that, like a standalone. They did actually. And it even says right here, no disc included, downloadable content only. But you could see, this was, I remember picking this up, and I will say this, what year did this come out here? I'm trying to look for here we go. Yeah, so it came out in 2009, in early 2009, right? And I remember even people thinking that this was odd. And for me, my teenage brain, the reason why I end up purchasing this is because I wanted to buy the content anyways. It was going to be a digital download. And I was like, well, if it's going to be a $20 digital download versus a $20 box with a code, I'd rather physically get something if I'm going to be dropping that. But here's the thing I don't think Rockstar is going to do. I know we're kind of going on a tangent here, but this is how it goes. You could see, it's physical box, right? I don't have the receipt in here. Okay. I guess I didn't see the value in keeping that. But you can see right here, it's a digital code, that's it. And this is what I'm saying, I don't think Rockstar is going to do this. This was cool, I gotta back up for this. But like, look, I know y'all can't see it the best, but like, there's actually a poster here, and would you look at that? They end up including a map in here as well, too. Rockstar, you better do this for Grand Theft Auto 6 because you've already proven before that you can do this. You've proven that you're capable of doing this. So now I got this boxed up and I can, this there. You know what? It's just going to be a display piece for the rest of this video because that's what it is, right? It's a cardboard box. There's no value to that now unless you're a collector looking for that. But yeah, it's just a cardboard box at this point. So there's that. I just wanted to bring that up here. But for my actual opinion on why I believe they're just going to release Grand Theft Auto 6 as a code in the box, there's two reasons for that, I believe at least. One, this game is going to be selling for a very long time. Not only people have really been waiting for this and they have been hyping it up and they've been really excited for it, but you got to realize the original Grand Theft Auto 5 came out in 2013. We're in 2026 now. People are still buying it. People are still playing it. People are still messing around with it. And it's released on so many different platforms. So Rockstar knows they're not just going to release this and it's going to fizzle out within a year. Like, no, they're going to release Grand Theft Auto 6 and they're going to support it for a very, very long time. So they really kind of have to look at how they're going to be producing it. And to produce discs for this game for only like, just over a year, it wouldn't make sense. I understand that logistic, but even people were wondering, okay, if you're just selling a code, why even sell it in stores to begin with? And I'll say this is more for people who are younger and mainly for people who don't remember a Grand Theft Auto release. Yeah, I think with the ages that would work about there. Point is, if you don't have any Grand Theft Auto releasing, like a new Grand Theft Auto game releasing in your memory, if you've never experienced that, there's something I call the Grand Theft Auto effect. And the Grand Theft Auto effect is that if there's a new Grand Theft Auto game coming out, people will just drop money. That's it. So if you have, in this example, Grand Theft Auto 5, let's just pretend this is Grand Theft Auto 6, right? If you go to a store and you see Grand Theft Auto on the shelf, you see it right there, maybe you didn't even really have interest in getting a game system, right? But if you see the new Grand Theft Auto, you'll be like, maybe not you, but many people will be like, wait a minute, Grand Theft Auto's out? So I could buy this, and what do I need to play it? A PS5? Okay, so if I buy this and a PS5, I can go home right now and play Grand Theft Auto? Yeah, I'm going to get both of them. Grand Theft Auto is an incredible system seller. It is an incredible push for the industry. Everybody knows about it. The people who hate Grand Theft Auto know more about Grand Theft Auto, I'm sure, than many people who enjoy the actual series. It's huge. So yes, it is in Rockstar's best interest if they want to push sales of the game and even help these companies like Microsoft and Sony, mainly Sony here, push more console sales. It really just works as a good advertisement on that shelf space. Because if people see Grand Theft Auto, like I said, if people see Grand Theft Auto 6 right there on the shelf, they'll buy a copy of the game and an Xbox or a PlayStation right there. Probably more PlayStation because we've seen a lot less Xbox in-store shelves. Like, seriously, if you go to a Walmart or you go to any other store, I know like Costco, for example, Costco has stopped stocking the Xbox. They don't even stock it anymore. I don't even know if they have the games. And if you go to like a Walmart, for example, and look in the sections for games, not only they are kind of sparse and they're not as big as they used to be, but the Xbox section is pathetic. It's nearly non-existent at this point. So That's the Grand Theft Auto effect is what I'm saying. And with all of this, I just want to say that despite this being so this is a depressing moment. This is a depressing situation to talk about right here. I'm not surprised. The industry has been torpedoing towards this for a long time. That's what the game industry wants. That's what big publishers want, at least. That's what console manufacturers have wanted, at least. And this also confirms unofficially, to me at least, that the PlayStation 6 is going to be a discless console. And I anticipate that the next generation Xbox is going to do the same thing. Like I said, the in-store shelves are already bare for the original, for not the original, but for the Xbox itself. Heck, even you go to some shops and like the PlayStation sections aren't stocked that well either. So like, it's been like that for a few years. Do we really expect these storefronts to start stocking discs again? That's not really going to be realistic. There's another big fallout as well too, which, you know what? That's what these big companies want as well. We don't even, right now, we don't understand the half of it, right? Because we're not going to really fully understand it until a few years out from this video. But we don't know how much the industry is going to change from this. Like, for example, I know people don't like GameStop. I'm also one of those people. I don't like GameStop, but I've been saying for years, I don't want them to go away. I just want them to do better. That's it. And it seems like in some regards, they have been doing better. But a store like GameStop, a chain like GameStop, I don't know how they can survive. If PlayStation 4 games are, of course, going to be going away physically, but PlayStation 5 games are going to go away physically. PlayStation 6, they're not going to be doing the physical thing, so there's not really going to be, you know, the buy, sell, trade and all that, which is exactly what Sony and Microsoft don't mind. They don't mind that used market dying off. But with those actual used shops, unless they're going to lean heavily and go all in on retro and Pokemon cards, I don't know how they're going to survive. And let's be real here. If you have not been in a game shop that does that, first of all, Pokemon, I didn't expect it to come back as big as it did. I don't hate it. I'm just shocked. I'm just shocked. It's everywhere. But if you've ever been to one of these game shops that does like half video games, half cards, let's be real, it's not really the games that are paying the bills, it's the cards. A little anecdotal example, there's a local shop I end up going to, and again, like half of it is video games and consoles, half of it is cards and collectibles and things like that. And I was just there trading in some games, then buying a few here and there, and you know, I didn't spend all too much, thankfully. But then during my trade-in, it kept getting interrupted by people who kept buying cards. And you had one person, second person, a third person. Each of these people back to back to back were spending $250 on Pokemon cards. So that's going to sustain these stores a lot more than video games. Oh, and by the way, for anybody who does have a physical collection, like, I mean, this is just a little bit, but like this, what I have here, for example, really just for this video, for anybody who does have a physical collection, this is effectively going to kill off backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 6. Because if you didn't buy most of your games digitally, what are you going to do? How are you going to play them? You got PS4 games, you got PS5 games on disc, but I don't see how they're going to be rendered playable unless Sony does something like they release a external disk drive attachment for the PlayStation 6, which I really struggle to see. I struggle to see that happening. I really doubt that's going to happen. I'd love to be proven wrong, but realistically, I just doubt that's going to happen. Like I said, it's been a long time coming, and while we've had options to get a lot of games physically, the truth is that most people, it seems like in most of these big markets, have chosen convenience over tangible items. A lot of people use services such as Game Pass as well to favor subscriptions over ownership, although like I said at the top of this video, with all those movies being removed, I don't know what ownership is anymore when it's digital. I have no idea. Even then, when we've had physical releases, so many publishers don't do it properly. First, you see right there, like back in 2009, The Lost and Damned, we got a code in the box. Now, that was kind of resolved here because we end up getting this, Grand Theft Auto Episodes from Liberty City. This, in case you don't know, is just both expansions on one disc here, which, by the way, I don't know, I was pulling this off the shelf and I'm like, man, this is just another example of like why I just shouldn't sell games. When I was like younger, I would like sell games on, like occasionally I do here, but it was like, hey, I need money, so I'm going to sell some games I don't care about. And then, you know, later on I would buy them back. But like, seriously, look at this. It's just like, I bought this used at a thrift shop, didn't pay too much, but it's like, that's ripped up there, that's ripped up there. Like, what I'm saying is my copy of this is in a lot better condition when I had it, so I shouldn't have gotten rid of that. But that's one example. So there was the code in the box, of course. Another one which is pretty egregious, which, look, I know I do have it here. Halo Infinite, look, I'll tell you all. The reason why I got this physically is because, one, I wanted a physical copy of the game, and two, because this game here ended up being really cheap. I think I paid like 14 bucks for it. I wanted to purchase it. I wanted to play it. And I don't play my Xbox Series nearly enough. In fact, it's been unplugged for like a year and a half. But I don't play it nearly enough to subscribe to Game Pass. It just not worth it for me. So it's like the rare time I do want to play a game on my Xbox, it's actually more affordable for me and more economically sound to just purchase the game. Either way, I'm saying this here because this one is pretty shameful because there's hardly any data on this. It's pretty much just an unlock. There might be maybe a few hundred megabytes of data on here, but aside from that, you put the disc into your console, you have to download the entire game. I have truly hated it when publishers do this because it's Blu-ray discs. And Blu-ray discs, at minimum, hold 25 gigabytes. So, yeah, we've got a lot of examples of that. And I've been showing you all these examples, my physical collection stuff here and all of that. And I think there's a bit of a disconnect, which leads to a problem here, which is the average person has kind of lost the understanding of ownership when it comes to these games. Because so many times when there is a game that is being delisted, I'll talk about on Twitter or Blue Sky or wherever else, and you always have people coming through who say something like, my digital copy works the same as your physical copy, and you have to download the game either way, so what's the issue? And I'm going to put it like this, I'm going to explain it, but I know for sure I can't convince these people. So if you're one of these people, look, you can listen to this explanation, but I know I'm not going to be able to convince you. That's why I've stopped trying to convince people this, because I firmly believe that people who think that way, and I'm not like trying to shame you with that, but I'm just trying to lay this out realistically. I do believe that people who think that way will only realize how bad this is once it inconveniences them in some major way. But before that, they're just going to say, nope, my digital games are fine. They work the exact same as your physical versions. There's no difference there. When there is, there's differences. I'm actually going to pivot real quick into another topic here that slightly, I'm going to bring it back to what I'm talking about, right? But this is about AI. And some people might be thinking I'm going to go on this like, big pro or anti-AI rant or whatever it is. And no, it's not that. It's actually, I'm giving an example of this. There's one YouTuber I follow, and I follow him because he talks about a lot of AI news, and it's something I definitely want to be interested in what's happening in the different industries, businesses, things like that, how things are being handled with AI. And this guy is incredibly pro AI. His channel, you could see from the titles and all that, the thumbnails, he is pretty pro AI, but he also reports the bad news with AI as well too, but he kind of tries to put a spin on it of like, hey, look, this is what's going to happen here, and this is how it is, and all that stuff. So that's one thing I try to do. I try, and when I learn, I try to get viewpoints from multiple sides and kind of come to my own conclusions on there because I want something a little more well-rounded. Either way, it ended up surprising me because pretty recently he ended up putting up a video where he was very upset and very against AI. And I just want to put it like this, right? I'm going to describe this as is. I'm not trying to get political here. Whatever your affiliation is, that's not the point of this. The point of this is talking about not really caring about something until it impacts you. And that is exactly what happened here. This guy was talking about AI professionally. He was talking super positively about it, about how he's going to use AI more with his workflow, about how people should use it. And then he uploaded this really angry video. And this angry video came out because he was talking about flock cameras. If you don't know about those, please look them up. But he was talking about flock cameras because he ended up getting a ticket in the mail for speeding, and it was a $100 fine that he had to pay. This is in another city, and he was caught with a flock camera. He looked into it, and he saw that a lot of cities are making tons of money by doing AI surveillance with flock cameras and issuing out traffic citations and violations that way. And with him, he was one of the targets of that because he was looking at it, and he was saying, okay, well, what are my options here? My options are, one, I can either just pay the $100 fine, which I don't want to do, or two, I can contest it and I can go to a judge and I can go to court and I can talk about this and I could probably win there, but then I have to hire a traffic lawyer, and then even to do that, I have to take a day off work just to go to this other city that I was just passing through, and it's not worth it. And in the end, he said, look, When it comes down to it, did I speed? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm not going to contest it because when it comes down to it, I'm just going to pay the $100 and move on. And in that moment, he truly felt like his civil liberties were violated. Now, again, regardless of how you feel on the spectrum, that is an example right there. The guy was all in on AI, really positive about it. And then when it ended up hitting him for only $100, mind you, right? It's not like this was a $10,000 or $100,000. It was $100, but $100 is $100. When it hit him, he was livid. He was angry. So so a lot of people like this that I was describing, they're really going to only be convinced when something negative ends up happening to them. And I guess that's how it has to be. But back to it here, I'm actually going to use a different example. I'm going to use this one here, Star Fox, because this one, the game is actually on the cartridge, right? But if you have a physical copy of the game, my physical copy of Star Fox here as an example, this physical copy does not have any account restrictions on it. I don't have to register it to my own account. I don't have to put the license exclusively on my own account. I could play it on any other Switch 2 console as long as the cartridge slot works, and it's on the required firmware that it needs, which makes sense. Any region, any account, I can even be offline and play it. If I have a Switch 2 and I haven't taken it online for anything, I can put this cartridge in. There's probably going to be a firmware update on there, so I'll have to install the firmware update, reboot the Switch 2, and from there, I'm able to play my copy of Star Fox just fine. Now, there's people who are online all the time, and that makes sense, but this is just showing what you can actually do with that. You're not tied to the restrictions of the online marketplace just to play your copy of your game. As for downloading the game, because there's people who say, yeah, you still have to download the game, that is true, but there are also egregious examples, like I talked about, Halo Infinite. You pop it in, it's really just a license. The game data is physically not on the disc itself. You have to download the rest of the game. I believe the Call of Duty games have been doing that as well too. Again, they have 25 or 50 gigabytes to work with. I don't know why they don't use that, but that's how that goes there. But there's even some games that get completely rebuilt as a patch. For example, Halo Master Chief Collection on Xbox One. If you have the original disc-based version of the game and you want to play it, like you want to be connected online and play it, the entire game has been rebuilt to the point you have to re-download the entire game. No Man's Sky, Days Gone, those are a couple other games where the same thing happened as well too, and I would see those as more beneficial there. But when it comes to the games like Halo Infinite, for example, where there's just really no data, there's no playable data on the disc itself, that's just a poor practice. Again, like, please use the Blu-ray, please use it. Don't just use it as an unlocked code. Like, let's not do that. Now, keep in mind as well, too, that most games are not like this. Downloading the game, if you want to do that, is fine until it's not. You might run into internet issues, connectivity issues. Maybe you're somewhere with a slow connection. Maybe you actually do have a slow connection there. Another thing that comes from it too is that you got to realize all these are tied to your account. And I'm from the Xbox 360, Xbox Live days, right? I never went online with the Xbox like the original one, but on the 360, I was on there, and I've seen so many people get their accounts stolen, get their accounts hacked, get their accounts banned, and I'm not even talking about people who are doing really egregious stuff like they're modding online or something. If you're doing that, I understand the ban. But I'm talking about people who weren't doing stuff like that. And especially now, from what I've seen, there's even more restrictions on things you can say. So if you're making fun of someone, you're trash talking or doing stuff like that, you can get suspensions on your account. You can get restrictions. And even if you do enough of that bad stuff, you can just get your account completely banned. Which, I mean, those are reasons right there, just from that alone, that they can just take that away at any point. More reasons why I end up going physical. If you lose your account, whether it's banned or stolen or lost or whatever it is, you can say goodbye to your games, especially if the company behind that account is not going to help you get it back. Oh, and what about people who end up getting their account stolen and they end up getting, a ton of charges on there? Maybe it's just for convenience. You have your account, you have your credit card on there, you can purchase all your games, add funds, do whatever you want to. And this one's actually about Sony. Funny enough, because this is actually one of Sony's policies here. So let's say you have a PlayStation account, it ends up getting hacked, you get $500 worth of charges on your account, you have to go through Sony in order to try and get your account back. And you can try your best on there, but it's not going to be a guarantee that you'll get your account back. Even when you do get your account back, it's going to take sometimes weeks, maybe even months to get it back. These processes do take a while here. And on top of everything, you might be thinking there, if you have a debit card or a credit card, okay, I'll just do a chargeback. No, you can't do that. Nope. Sony has been pretty transparent about it, and they have said, if you get your account stolen and there's all those funds that are racked up on there, if you try to charge back any of those purchases on your account will be banned. So there you go. You still lose your games, your licenses, your account, all of that stuff. If you're just trying to get your money back from a hack. And for people who might say, well, use strong passwords, don't give out your email, two-factor authentication, there's always bypasses out there for this stuff, right? We've seen it on so many platforms and so many examples of this. Everything, security evolves, hacking evolves. That's just how that works. The big difference on there, especially with a console and a like walled off ecosystem like that, is that if your Microsoft, like if your gamer tag gets hacked up, you have to deal with Microsoft. That's it. If your PlayStation Network account gets hacked, you have to deal with Sony. If your Nintendo account gets hacked, obviously you have to deal with Nintendo here. But this is incredibly different from PC, like the desktop or laptop or just, personal computing there. Because on PC, you actually have options. You have Steam. You have Epic. I don't know who's really choosing to run Epic as their primary, but you do have the Epic Game Store on there. And if you don't want to use those because maybe you're completely against DRM and you want DRM-free copies of your games, you have Good Old Games or GOG. You also have Itch. And you can, and there's even, I know that there's like, for example, if you want to support like indie developers and all that, I do know there's indie developers out there. They just have their games available on their website. You can pay them directly and you can just get a clean DRM-free executable of the game and you can play that. Heck, if you still, I don't do this personally, but I'm just using it as an example. If you still have boxed PC games on CD and DVD, you can, in the modern day, on a brand new computer, Windows 11 and everything, or whatever new operating system you want to run, you can still use your disk drive and hook it up and put the discs in there and install your games from disk. You can do that if you want to. You can if you still want to run your PC like it's 2002, for the most part, you can still do that. That's the beauty of it. But again, on console, you're only dealing with one entity. And even if people do say, oh, well, there's contracts and there's clauses in these contracts here and in the terms of service that, if you get banned or if they go online, they still have to let you have access to your games. I don't trust them. I believe that all of these services, any of them can go down at any point in time. Not only that, I believe they can disappear. I believe they can go poof. I believe they can go offline. Just because they're big doesn't mean they're never going to fail. There's things that change along the way. It could be accidental. It could be on purpose. But what I'm saying is I don't believe any of these services will continue to operate in the same way because I've seen it change myself so many times. Plus, if we're talking about we still have the same console, the same account, and you can still access your content even if it's been delisted, because that's one thing about these companies. If you have purchased a game, for example, and that game is delisted, meaning that it is no longer available for purchase, because you purchased it on your account, you can always go back in there theoretically and re-download that game. But what I'm going to ask you all is, have you all tried it? Because there's some platforms you cannot do it on there. The Xbox 360, love that console. If you're familiar with the channel, you obviously know that. But have you tried to go onto just stock Xbox Live on an Xbox 360 and go through your download history and re-download stuff? Because I have. It's a horrible experience. It's slow. It's not super reliable. There's so much content on there that just doesn't download properly, or even worse, there's content that just says it's unavailable. Unavailable. I don't know what it is. I have no idea what that content is, and even though I am entitled to re-download it, I can't. So people say you can, I can't. Just give that a try on one of those old platforms if you haven't. It's a miserable experience. When it comes to this decision, though, with Sony winding down and just completely stopping physical production of game discs, I don't believe this is going to be rolled back. I'm sorry I'm not optimistic about it, but I really don't think this is going to be rolled back because this is a big decision to put in place here and start moving forward on. This is also going to change the gaming industry as well, too, because quite simply, we've relied on and chosen convenience for far too long. The big thing here as well, too, is that people might not care about it now. And if you don't, that's fine. You're just not going to care about it. But like what happened with CDs and DVDs and even things such as manuals in games. Remember, like back there, remember the map I just pulled out from Grand Theft Auto? Let me show you all. That was in 2009, right? No game in there. Just a code in a box, and they gave me a map and a poster. This is probably bad, actually. Okay, I had to remember. I have Grand Theft Auto 5 on PS4. It actually has the stuff in here, but I don't think Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to have anything in it. Because from what I've seen, I don't have it, but the physical edition of Grand Theft Auto 5 that ended up coming out, I'm going to have to use my other game here, Clear Obscure, for this. This is what it looks like. That's it. I'm bringing this up though because much like manuals, much like these physical games, much like things that have disappeared, I've seen it so many times where there's folks such as myself and other people who are trying to sound the alarm for years, and people just don't really think it's a big deal. They don't really care about it. And then whatever happens, happens. And then within about 5 years or so, people are like, wait a minute. I remember like games used to like be on the disc. Like, why do I have to download the entire game if I have the disc? Um, I remember games had manuals, and I don't remember the last time I had a manual. What happened? People don't really pay attention to it while it's happening, but they remember it years after it's already happened. It's kind of just human nature, I guess. But within the next 5 years, those questions are also going to evolve. People are going to ask, well, what happened to game shops? Why don't game shops exist? Why can't I find new games in game shops? Why is it harder to find a video game store? Why aren't game discs being sold in Walmart? And for people who go digital, when those conveniences of digital become inconvenient, people are going to be upset. But when people are upset, I feel like it's going to be far too late. Like, if people get mad about this in 2030, there's not really going to be much of a point to it because the production plants who are handling PlayStation discs are going to be done and retired and dismantled, I'm sure. I'm already seeing it now with all generations of gamers, but I'm especially seeing it with younger generations, and it makes me really happy to see, not just with games. I'm seeing it with music, with movies, with TV shows, that people are actually going back to old formats, and maybe not even old formats. People are going to physical formats because they're starting to realize how great they are. They're starting to realize that a collection doesn't just have to be a list of titles on your screen or a list of cover art. Like, yeah, you have the cover art, but doesn't the cover wrap around something like this here? Like, it's kind of nice having this. You have the disc, you have the content available, and there's no internet or subscription required. This game here, Expedition, if I want to install this on my PS5 and I was in a situation where I had no internet for 4 days, I could pop this disc in and play it. It would be the base 1.0 version of the game, but that's not going to stop me from being able to play it. And that's beautiful. One thing I'm personally even shocked to hear about, but I was really happy to see it, was that there was another YouTuber I follow, and he mainly does like movies, TV shows, pickups like that, not so much games because he's like a really big movie buff. But I saw a video from him recently where he was saying what surprised him is that people are going back to DVD. And people don't even care that Blu-ray is nicer quality than DVD. People don't care that a DVD only caps out at, what, 480p. It's not that people care about the quality. They just care about DVD because it's available. It's cheap. It's easy to use. It doesn't require internet. It doesn't require subscription. They can go purchase a DVD from wherever they want to. Walmart. Does Target have them? I hope they still have them. They can go to a thrift shop. They can buy one online. And when they have the disc, they can just take the disc, put it into their player, and it plays. The end. That's it. And people are really appreciating that now. Additionally, I also do believe, and this is maybe me being hopeful, not in this sense here, not with like PS4, PS5, PS6 game discs here, right? But I do believe that physical media could exist. I do see it works well in other countries. There's other countries, they're still doing releases of films, of music, of TV shows, of games. That's why sometimes I'll import as well too, because you'll have games or even anything else, any of the media I just mentioned, it will be released physically in other countries, but maybe not my own country here. So that happens, and that's because there's more popularity there. And sometimes it's from an understanding of, hey, we want to support this, so we're going to keep it going and we're going to keep this market alive. But there's also other times where it's needed too. If a country is known for having bad internet, then it's not going to be as realistic to download these. Games are really big now, you all. Games are really big. So just having it on a disk and installing it from there is going to be so much better than downloading I don't know, an 80 gigabyte update. Not even a game, an update. Like, for example, I've talked about this with people, right? A lot of people really, and I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way, but a lot of people, one thing they love is kombini culture in Japan. Convenience, if you don't know, is just the convenience stores there. You can find them everywhere. You can get a whole lot of stuff right there, and it's just so convenient. But that's because the system has been built around that there. And there's also local and community support, and they are going to continue to support that. There's people in the US, for example, who they go there, they come back, and they're like, man, convenies are awesome. Convenies are convenient. Like, why can't we have that here? And I tell people, well, we've already chosen our own variant of convenience. It's called Amazon Prime. And this is not trying to plug Amazon Prime, but you'll notice that other companies were trying to follow suit. Walmart does what? Walmart Plus. For any stores who don't do it, you got DoorDash or what any of these other. I go so far out of my way to not use those services. I don't use Uber Eats. I don't use DoorDash. I don't use I don't know. I like literally I know I'm a little amplified right now, but I'm struggling to even recall the names of these services and apps because I don't use them, because I go out of my way to actually get in my car or walk and go to these stores and do my shopping. Mainly because I really just don't want to pay those markups, but also because I feel like if I start leaning into that convenience, I'm going to lean pretty hard into it. So I'm kind of trying to not do that there. But that's an industry thing right there. Everybody got used to 2-day shipping. Everybody got used to Prime. And these other stores, they had to just adapt. They had to do the same thing. And we're going to see something similar here, just with the companies, not individual stores. Now, if you've made it to close to the end of this video, first of all, thank you. Really, I do appreciate it. It's been a little cathartic talking about this as well, too. And I would want to know people's thoughts about this, but I kind of want to kind of bring it to myself a little bit, if you don't mind. Because some people might wonder how this impacts me directly, because I love my physical media. I show how to modify your systems, how to actually back up your games, how to get a better sense of ownership on them as well too. And I also have a pretty nice collection of games and consoles and such, which I am happy about. But how does it impact me? Well, to be honest, I don't really buy that many new titles for new consoles. I'm just going to be real with you all. This generation, the ninth generation, hasn't really been super interesting to me. Now, am I sitting here saying it's a bad generation? No. Because if I say that, then I have to put away Expedition 33, which I keep citing this game. I keep talking about it. This here is not just, it was not just my game of the year for last year. This so far is my game of the generation. It is one of the greatest games I ever played. And if it didn't like it, and if I just completely dismissed this generation and said, nope, I'm not going to play anything new, I would have missed out on one of the greatest gaming experiences I ever had. So even to that though, when I do buy games, I'm not buying too many of them. Not only I'm having more fun on the older generations and kind of playing through my backlog, but even when I do get newer games, it has to be something I really, really want. So for example, Expedition, I went out of my way. I remember when I got this game, I looked online, there was one store that had it within like a 50-mile radius of me. I had to drive out like 30 minutes to get it, and I paid full MSRP for it. But it was absolutely worth it. Star Fox, I really wanted this game. I wanted it physical. I paid full price for it. So if I really, really want a game, I'm going to pick it up physically. Sometimes I even wait for a physical release if it's going to come out 2 or 3 months later. Or another game, for example, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. This game seemed really interesting to me. I didn't really want to pick it up at the time. I was playing other stuff. I saw it on sale for 20 bucks. I said, you know what? I'll pick it up for 20 bucks. So that's kind of been my newer game purchases. They're kind of far and few in between. I've thankfully been able to slow down a lot because on top of this generation not having too much that I'm really interested in and gunning after, I thankfully have a lot of the games that I want, and I'm just going to be real. I have such a big backlog of games, if you're counting that library, that I'm not going to be able to play or finish all of them. Within 2 or 3 lifetimes, I won't be able to do that. So like I'm good on games for like the rest of my life, if we're being real. I will say though, I am going to continue to vote with my wallet. This is something that I have told people to do. Money talks, and with that, please vote with your wallet. I'm going to encourage you all to do the same. But the funny thing is, this also means, love them or hate them, Nintendo is really the only company now who's doing physical media properly. And even then, it's kind of spotty at times. They got the game keycards. Pokemon Pokopia, that one came out on a game keycard. I saw that one. Their first party titles aren't on game keycards, and it looks like they're trying to create some more like affordable options. So, you know, you don't have to get the 64 GB card if you're a publisher putting your games on cartridge. They're looking into other sizing options and all that stuff. But also, don't worry. Also with that too, with Speak With My Wallet, I have pre-ordered multiple games for the Switch and the Switch 2, which are going to be coming out physically, even if I have to wait a few months after their digital release. I am putting my money where my mouth is in those examples because I do want them. I want to support physical. And if Nintendo's doing it right, Nintendo's doing it right. I don't know, man. People also might be wondering as well, too. Okay, well, if you love discs so much, are you going to get a new Xbox? Are you going to get a PlayStation 6? And my answer is maybe. It's not like I'm saying yes. I'm also not saying no. But my thing is really, if I have enough personal interest in getting one, sure. I doubt I'm going to get them at launch. But you got to realize here, even with the current generation systems, I love the Switch. I love the Switch too. But the Xbox Series X, I've had mine disconnected for like a year and a half. And I have a PS5 and I enjoy the PS5, but I don't use it as much as people would expect. And on top of that, even like my years of owning the PS5, I just have a standard PS5, like the original one, the disc model. I haven't felt a need to jump to the PS5 Pro. Would the PS5 Pro be better? Absolutely. But I haven't really played any games where I'm like, wow, I really need a Pro for this. I'm like, no, I'm fine. Like it plays games pretty well. If anything, the games that do have issues, I'm like, I can like look at it and see what's going on and all that. And I'm like, this needed more time to cook. This needed more optimization. This is not a lack of power issue on the PlayStation 5. This is more of an issue of how the game was developed and how it was not optimized as well as it could have been. So that's my opinion on the next generation of systems. I have seen many people who said they're not going to be getting the new PlayStation. They're not going to be getting the new Xbox. And I don't have anything against that. Like, you do you. And the people who are saying, I'm going to get a PS6, I'm going to get the new Xbox, you do you. I just don't have that same love for modern gaming as I once did before. And I think a lot of it is just kind of how things have moved throughout the industry. It's not like I'm not going to play games anymore, but I have so many old games that I'm always going to be entertained by my library. Overall, one thing that even popped into my head too was, this is why I do what I do here on the channel. I'm not here to promote piracy. It's not that. You've seen my videos. You see when I show how to back up a game, I actually have the game disc. I show how to do that. I do mean that there. But this future, which is going to be here incredibly soon, so this near future is a big part of why I've made the content I have for as long as I have. Because I truly believe in owning your media, in actually owning what you have paid for to purchase, to own. I believe in that. The very last thing I'm going to leave you all with, I promise here, because I know this is a long video. Again, thank you for coming to the end of this here if you've made it all the way to the end. But the last thing I want to say here is actually some posts that resonated with me on Blue Sky. And this is just some food for thought for you to chew on, right? These are from Kelsey Lewin, who, in case you do not know, she is in the video game space and stuff, but she's also a co-owner of the Pink Gorilla video game store. They have a few locations in Seattle. I believe they have one in Las Vegas as well, too. But she said it with these two posts, and I'm just going to read them directly. The last year has made it clear that we are losing all meaningful competition within the video game market. What incentive is there for Sony to offer a better product when their primary competitor has lost so much public confidence? Digital storage is more expensive than it has been in a long time, with no signs of slowing down. Markets need to grow to keep producing results for these companies. By limiting your audience to only people who can afford $1,000 plus machines and pay $70 rentals, I truly do not know how this continues. Same, girl. Same. Anyways, that's about it for this video. I don't really know how to end this here, so I'm just going to end this. And if you let me know your thoughts on this overall, if I've said anything you disagree with, if you are unbothered by this, maybe you're extremely bothered by this, maybe what your plans are to handle this, if you're going to still get the new systems, if you're going to just stay on the old systems. Like, I'm actually curious. I really am curious to see what people have to say. So I just need to wrap up this video here. This is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated. If you didn't like the video, because maybe you do want an all-digital future, a dislike is fine as well, too. Anyways, that's it for real this time. This is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone.